In this video, we will discuss macro functions. We've already discussed many SAS functions before, but those functions can only be used in data step. So right now, we will discuss macro functions. So macro functions can be used anywhere. So it can be used in data step, and so also maybe other procedure or even beyond any step. So macro functions have similar syntax as corresponding data step character functions and yield similar results. You can see you can have uppercase, lowercase, substring, scan, index, and length. I think so. We discussed the corresponding functions in dataset step before, right? Yeah, those are macro functions since you just add a % before the name of the function. Yeah, but they are different. Okay, so they are macro functions. So they manipulate macro variables and expressions, and you cannot use SAS dataset variables into macro functions. The purpose or the meaning of those functions are clear, right? See, uppercase just translate letters to uppercases. Lowercase just translate letters to lowercases. So substring just extract a substring. Scan just extract a word from a character string. So index just search a character string for specified text. So length, so just return the length of a character string or text expression. So let's check some examples. I think so we will have examples. Maybe look at here. See, C state, right? For example, so here we say the second one, C state, right? So then we use the substring macro function, right? So the first argument, see here, so this should be the name of a, this just, see, because since C state, so this is a SAS macro, right? Macro variable. So what SAS do is, see, so for the value of this macro variable, so SAS will extract a string. So starting from position 3, and so the length will be 3. Okay. Then let's try to see. I just show that in a show that title. See the first title. So this is a result of C state, that macro variable. So we start from position 3, so will be M, right? So the length is 3, so MAY. So we just extract the month of the date from this C state from the value of C state, right? So this demonstrates this substring function. Then look at here. Yeah, so notice, see, this macro function so is used beyond any data step or proc step, right? So now let's demonstrate some further examples. I just create 3 macro variables. So then in the data step, so I create a data set, a new data set called myinfo2, right? See, for the first one, I think so this is the same as this guy, right? Yeah, so then I just create this one and I assign the value to my month. So notice, so here I add double quotation mark on both sides. Because, so if you do not write double quotation mark, so if you write in this way, for example, right? So if you write in this way, because as we just demonstrated, the value of this macro function so will be May, right? So if you do not write quotation mark, so then you say my month equals May. So then this is something so without a quotation mark, then SAS will treat this as, we'll try to interpret it as name of a variable. Yeah, but we do not have, but this is not name of the variable, right? Of course, what we want to do is we just want to assign this character string to my month. Yeah, so this is why you need to add a quotation mark. So you need to add a double quotation mark. Yeah, so you cannot write a single quotation mark here. As we mentioned before, for those, see this and so this macro function or those macro variable, right? So if you want SAS to resolve it, so you have to put it inside a double quotation mark. But if you use a single quotation mark, okay, then SAS will just will treat those characters as normal characters. So without invoke a SAS macro trigger. Yeah. So then let me mention this part first. Demonstrate this part first. So we run this part, then we print, right? You can see. For my month, so this is May, so this is what we expected, right? Yeah, so if you drop the quotation mark, then you run it again. See, this is missing, right? This is missing. See, SAS also interpret May as a variable. You can see in the log window, so SAS will say, see, variable May is uninitialized. And so if you write a single quotation mark, okay, and so then you write again. So now the value will be just be this whole thing, right? Yeah, so SAS will not solve that macro variable and will not run this macro function. Yeah, so here you need to use double quotation mark. Answer equals my cal. My cal is this one. Equivalently, so what SAS do is, see, for this guy, SAS will be replaced by the corresponding value. So it is equivalent to write your code in this way. Yeah, so 2 plus 3, so this is a expression, and so SAS will just evaluate this expression and assign the value to answer, right? Oh, sorry. We assign this value to answer. So this is why when you run this one, answer will be 5, right? For this index, this function, see, for this string, then followed by some string, followed by something, right? So then SAS in this string, so SAS will search for MOR, and so will return the position of the string identified. Look at here. See, MOR, so start from here, right? See, M, what's the position in this string? First one is G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 and 6, right? So the space is also counted as a character. Yeah, so the M so will be the 6th position. Yeah, so then this is why when you run the index 0, so this index 0, so the value will be 6. I think so, it will be 6. But if you search for this one, right? This one, the difference is we have a quotation mark on both sides. Do you still remember? So when we assign values to a macro variable, so those quotation marks will be included as part of the value, right? So this is why. So then when you still search for MOR, because we have one extra character in the beginning, right? So then this position will be 7, will be 7th position. Yeah. So then the value is 7. Scan, so function scan, so it's used to scan the word for this string, right? So if we want to find the second word in this string, so the first one is good, so second one will be morning, right? Yeah, so then this is why, see, for word 0, so the value will be morning. For the next one, so then we search string 1, and so we look for the third word, right? See, good, morning, and Auburn. Yeah, so the third one will be Auburn. Right? So those punctuation are ignored. Okay. Yeah. So this explains this example. Yeah. So you can try other macro function by yourself. Next one, since func, right? So this function will execute a SAS function in the macro facility. So notice, usually, so by default, so SAS function can only be used inside data step. But if you want to use those functions beyond data step, right? And so you need to put that inside since function macro, since function, you need to put it there. Okay. So see, for example, so here, so first I just define a string. I mean, define a macro variable. So this is a name of the variable, right? Prop case. So this is a function, right? So just change that string to a proper space. I mean, a proper case. Yeah. So means the first letter becomes capital letter, and so remaining letters are small letter, right? So then and string, right? So let's try to show that. See, yeah, so C will be Will Smith. Of course, so in this case, we may not need to use the since function directly, because you can just directly use the corresponding macro function. Yeah, so that maybe so this will be more straightforward. Oh, okay. So I know the reason. Yeah. So there is no prop case. There's no this macro function defined, right? Yeah. So then I have to use the prop case. So the SAS data step function. But for other things, for example, like the up case, yeah. So we have this macro function, right? So if you run this one, see, this works. Yeah, so in this case, we use the since function just because there is no macro function prop case. Okay. Yeah, so this is since func. So basically, so this is used to execute SAS data step function. All arguments in data step function within this one must be separated by comma. So you cannot use argument listed preceded by the word of. What does this mean? So this means, see, for example, so do you still remember? So in the past we have sum of x1 minus x4, right? So this just means you compute the sum of those variables, right? So however, so if you put this inside of the since func, put this function, this is not allowed. Okay, so you cannot use this name list. So you must just write them in this way. Just write out the name of the variable, and the name of the variable will be separated by comma. Yeah. So compare this one and this one. Yeah, so this one is wrong, right? So this one is correct. Okay, yeah. So this is what I mean by this comment. Yeah. So you cannot use argument list preceded by the word of. The next one, percent sign EVAL. So this will this will evaluate arithmetic and logic expression using integer arithmetic. And a similar one is, so the one followed by, the other one is just a so-called SIS, EVALF. EVAL, so evaluation, right? Or evaluate. So this one just add a SIS before that, and so then add an F in the end. So F just indicate for for floating point numbers. So basically decimal numbers. So look at these three pieces of code. So why we want to use EVL? Because when SAS assign this expression to a macro variable, so SAS will not evaluate the value of the expression. So if you want SAS to evaluate the value, so you need to use this EVL function. Yeah, so this is correct. But this is not correct. Yeah, because see 10 and 20, so they are integers, right? Yeah, so EVAL, so this function only works for integer. And so this one, so they are decimal numbers. So for decimal numbers, and you need to use the sys evalf function. Yeah, so let's check that. You can see in this one, a character operand was found in this function, or if condition where a number, this one. Well, so I know, so the error message looks weird, and I mean, you may not, so this error message looks weird, right? Yeah, so but the reason is just because this function so only works for integer, and so you try to add decimal point, yeah, because for those decimal number, I mean decimal point, yeah, so then SAS get confused. SAS can, for this function, it can only handle whole number. Yeah, but for this one will be correct. Okay. Let me show. Yeah, so when this function encounters a value containing a period, so basically containing decimal point, so it displays an error message about finding a character operand when a numerical operand is required. So this is just a demonstrate of the sys evalf function. By default, so SAS will evaluate that expression and basically return a value with format best 32 dot. Okay. Yeah, but and so result is always text. You can also evaluate that expression and output in different format. For example, so then you can specify the second argument as a boolean. So boolean so just means a 0 or 1. Okay. If the expression is 0, so then SAS will return 0. I mean, it's 0 or missing, SAS will return 0. Yeah, so otherwise, so SAS will return 1. For the second argument, so if it is the cell, so we mentioned this function before, right? So this is just indicate the smallest integer larger than that expression. Yeah, because if you do this summation, so the value is 57.9. So the smallest integer larger than that will be 58. Yeah, so this will be the result of this macro function. So this can also be the floor. So floor just indicates the largest integer smaller than that value, right? See, just will be 57 here. And so the value can also be int. Int just extract the integer part of that expression. Yeah. So then let's try this part. Okay. No, for the previous example, I forgot to run this part, right? Yeah. So see, D1 will be 30, D3 will be 30. So D1, D3 are correct, right? Yeah, but D2, cause this function only handle integers. So for decimal numbers, so SAS will show error. For this one, right? So this is what we just explained. So we define two macro variables A and B, right? And so then we use this macro function. So since evalf, okay. Yeah. So for those macro, macro variable, right? So SAS just replace by the corresponding value 12.3 and 45.6. Yeah, so then SAS just evaluate that expression. So then I show that one. You can see, so the value will be either 75.9 or maybe 1 or 58. Yeah, so I've already explained why the value will be like that. Check other things. So notice, see, in those case, right? So as long as we have this percent sign or this ampersand symbol, so SAS will invoke that. So that is a macro trigger, right? So then SAS will either resolve that macro variable or run those macro function. But sometimes you may just want to keep those things, right? Or there are also some other special symbols, and so you want, you do not want SAS to interpret it. So then the first one, so basically, so we have some functions to mask special characters. Mask special characters, because some special characters have special meanings, right? So like some punctuation, like the semicolon, or maybe the quotation mark, or maybe this percent sign, those ampersand symbol, right? Mask, so just means, so tells us just treat those characters as normal character, right? And so do not interpret those as kind of special symbols. Percent string, right? So this is the first function we can use to achieve this purpose. So here I just list some special token, right, or special characters that works for this. So can be masked inside this function. See, as this one, because we know, so semicolon, right? The purpose is, see, for here, so the purpose is, so you want to assign this part, so what I highlighted, so you want to assign this part as a value of this macro variable. But however, so because, see, you have a semicolon here, so whenever so SAS read a semicolon, so SAS will think, so the this is the end of the statement, right? So then what SAS do is SAS essentially just assign proc print, so this part to, as a value to print it. Yeah, so this is not what you want. But if you put that inside of percent sign string inside this macro function, right? Then SAS will assign this whole part to print it. See, for example, so maybe we can run this both, right? So then as a comparison, so you will see the difference. See, for the first one, you can see you run this one, right? So SAS will say print it, so the value will be just a proc print. Yeah, so only this one, so SAS will add this semicolon. But for this one, so this whole thing will be assigned as a value to print it. For the second one, so this is also similar. Yeah, but this one, just one extra comment, right? So when masking token that typical appears in pairs, yeah, so like quotation mark, parentheses, because they typical appear in pairs, right? So then you need to add a percent sign before it. Yeah, so otherwise, so SAS may report a syntax error. Okay. Yeah, so for example, like if you run it in this way, so then SAS will indicate syntax error. Yeah, but this will be fine. In fact, I demonstrated that, so I do not want to demonstrate use this quotation mark, but maybe I use this one, or maybe maybe this one, right? You can see percent sign, parentheses, right? And then SAS will treat this as, if you run this one, SAS will show, this works. Jones, so seems here it's strange, so I think that SAS does not work. Syntax Jones, yeah, but clearly, so SAS ignored these parentheses, right? But if you write this percent sign here, see, SAS will keep these parentheses here. Okay. So this is the case we will have these, because this has the same symbol as the single quotation mark, right? Yeah, so if you drop this one, so last time, so I remember it will totally mess up. Yeah, see, SAS will show you something. Well, will show you something strange, right? So anyway, so SAS didn't assign that correctly. Yeah, because those SAS treat this as a single quotation mark, and so it should come in pairs. Then if you run this one, yeah, so I think so this is why it messed up. Yeah, just because of that error. Okay, so seems everything messed up. Everything messed up. Yeah, so let me close that and reopen it, and hopefully so it works. We are discussing this one, right? Okay, so you can see, seems everything messed up. Yeah, just because of that quotation mark. So I have to close that and so relaunch SAS Studio. Okay, yes. Hopefully, so this time it works. Yeah, so now it works. So basically for those things, so usually so comes in pairs, right? So don't mess it up. Yeah, so if you mess it up, so sometimes you have to close SAS Studio and reopen it. But so this function, right? So it still interprets this percent sign so as special symbol. Yeah, but if you also want to mask that, you need to use this nr string, right? Yeah, so this nr string, so this function performs in the same way as percent string, except that it also masks micro triggers. Yeah, so like this percent sign and this sample end. So let's compare these two pieces of code. See, May and June. See, this is a macro trigger. Okay, so June is a macro variable, so we defined in this way. So when SAS reads this one, this June, so this macro variable will be replaced by its value. So then SAS will basically, so the result will be May 6th, right? Yeah, because this ampersand, so this symbol inside of this function, so SAS will still treat it as a micro trigger. Yeah, but if you put it in this function, so then SAS will ignore it and will treat it as a special, a ordinary character, so with no special meaning. So then the result will be May and June, right? So let's check that. See, the first one will be May 6th, right? Because so this macro variable is replaced by the corresponding value. Second one is May and June. Next one, the super Q function. Okay, so this macro function locates the macro variable named in its arguments and retrieves the masked value of that macro variable, so without permitting any resolution to occur. So it masks all items that might require macro quoting at macro execution. So this ensures that macro process will never attempt to resolve macro triggers in the text resolved with this function. So look at here. So then we just define two macro, right? So the first one will be MV1. So the next one is MV2. So if you see for here, if you put MV1, right? So then SAS will try to locate. Okay, so this guy is a macro variable, and then SAS will replace this macro variable so by its value. Its value is Smith and Jones, right? Yeah, but so there's an and here. Yeah, but SAS will not treat this as a macro trigger, right? See. Yeah, see, we'll never attempt to resolve a macro trigger in the text. Okay, so then the result will just be Smith and Jones. For the second one, so this is this guy. So this percent, right? So this is also a macro trigger, right? Yeah, but if you put it here, so inside of the super Q, okay, so it will just do like that. Notice, so for this is called simput x, right? So this just defined, create a macro variable. Yeah. So in the data step, we say the name of the data set is underscore none underscore, because we do not want to create any data set. So here we just want to create macro variables. Yeah. So then we run this one. Okay, see, just Smith and Jones, right? So this one will be like that. This is a B quote function. So the B quote, so this function allows the macro processor to resolve all macro expression before quoting the resulting text. For this one, we create a macro variable, so like those. Okay, and see in here, inside of, the argument is the percent sign text. And so this percent sign text just tells us, so it is a macro variable, right? So SAS will search for this text, so this macro variable, and so then this guy will be replaced by this text, right? So then SAS will essentially just add quotation marks there. So it masks the characters that percent string this function masks without the requirement to mark unmatched quotation marks or parentheses with a percent sign. Yeah, so seems easier to use than that percent string function. So this function treats all parentheses and quotation marks produced by resolving macro variable references or macro call as special characters to be masked at executing time. Yeah, so if we run this one, you can see, so SAS just put this. So see this function ampersand text, right? So this macro variable just replaced by the corresponding one, by the corresponding value. This one is called macro Q function. So the macro Q function, so you can see those are just some macro function we just mentioned earlier, right? But we just add a Q in front of it. So this macro Q function just process text in macro facility, just like the non-Q function. Yeah, but this function returns their results as quoted text. Yeah, so this means that the text produced by the Q function will never be mistaken for macro code. Yeah, so unless you intend the function output to execute as macro code, it is a best practice to always use the Q function instead of the non-Q version. Okay. Yeah, I think we use this as an example to explain. I think so maybe we explain it here. So here I just define some function, some macro variable, right? Okay, for example, so put C and C, right? So for this one, so this and C, because C is a macro variable here, so it will be replaced by this guy, right? And so the NR string, so this just will, just treat this and N as normal characters. So then the output, the result of this one just will be and A space and B. Yeah, so just will be this part. So this is we use the substring macro function, right? So C and C starting from position 1, so a substring means we extract a string, right? So from this value of this macro variable. So for this one, because the value is at A at B, right? Starting from position 1, and so the length will be 2. So then we will have this and A. Yeah, and so basically for this one, this macro function, so the result will be this and A. And so because A is also a macro variable, so SAS will resolve this macro variable, and so then and A, so this will be replaced by the corresponding of A will be 1. So eventually, so for this whole thing, right, and when SAS run it, so the result will be 1. But after you write a Q, use the Q function, okay? So then this and A will be treated as a text. So will be treated as a quoted text. Yeah, so then SAS will not interpret this and as a macro trigger. Yeah, so then the result will be and A. Yeah, so let's run this part. You can see, yeah, so for C, right? So the result will be this one, okay? So by the way, I'm not sure so if I made it clear or not. So why we, for this part, I think I still need to add a comments, okay? See, for this one, so we write it here, but instead of this, right? So what's the difference? See, if you write it in this way, okay, yeah, because so SAS read this ampersand A, ampersand B. Yeah, so A and B are macro variables, so then they will be replaced. Right? So in this case, the macro variable, the value of this C, so will be 1 space 2. Yeah, but in the second case, so we just use the NR string function we just discussed, right? So then the value of the C will be and A and B, right? So that's the difference. Yeah, maybe we can add another one. See, I have a C1, right? But I drop this function. Yeah, so here, and I also want to display C1. So then you will notice the difference, right? You can see for C1, right? So C1 the value is 1 space 2, but for C, so will be and A and B. Okay. Yeah, and then for C with the function substring, so the value will be 1. So this is what we explained. Yeah, but for if you use Q function, Q substring, yeah, so then and A, so SAS will not interpret it as a macro trigger.